Okay, so awesome. Good to see everybody. Welcome to our Monday morning meditation. So I call this Monday morning meditation, this is the Do Nothing Project. And the idea is that every Monday it's another experiment, a new experiment in how to do as little as possible to prepare us for the week where we're going to be doing potentially a lot. Maybe too much. So each week is sort of like an exploration into another way into sort of doing nothing, or at least doing almost nothing with a structure of something to keep us more in the nothing. So today, my invitation for today is we're going to explore a couple things. The general framework is really exploring this idea of kind of dropping into the still point. That I think of this as sort of like thin slicing time. Therese got me thinking about this when I was thinking about the pause between the breath, the end of the out breath, and before the new in breath comes. There's this sort of perfect moment, this pause. It's like the end of the pendulum, it goes all the way out, but it hasn't quite turned back yet. There's this pause, and this idea that this 30-minute sit is going to be our kind of thin slicing time pause. That we're seeing if we can the only real instruction is going to be to see if we can just stay with our awareness. But stay with our awareness without needing to go off into the daydream, without needing to go off into planning, into problem solving, going off into the future or ruminating about the past. Can we just stay right here in the present moment in our awareness? And I'll guide us in a way that'll kind of offer sort of two tiers of this. The first tier is it's sort of more of an open awareness practice about just being okay in our own bodies and our own awareness and just staying in this sort of open, aware space. And some people really like that and find that a nice, comfortable place to be. But for others, it just helps to have an anchor, something to kind of pay attention to within that. So that anchor might be the feeling of the breath, or it might be the feeling of the air on the skin, or it might be sounds. So we can kind of find an anchor that works for you. So I'll kind of lead both parts, and you can kind of choose where you want to stay and try to stay there as best as possible. Then the idea really is just to try to lightly stay present with your direct experience and not go into all those avenues of thinking that we do 23 and a half of the other hours of the day. So not vilifying thinking, just saying, hey, can we take a break from the compulsiveness of needing to do, needing to know. And that's the other little theme that we'll explore. I've found it really interesting occasionally in meditation to use this label, don't know. And it kind of is an idea that comes from Zen, which is very big on this idea of don't know mind. Meaning, can we stay in a place of openness without having to kind of collapse possibility into knowing what's going on? Oh, I know what's going on, or I know what's going on, or this is what's happening, or this is what's happening. In all of these ways, we are uncomfortable with not knowing. And so we often foreclose on the present moment experience by grabbing at a premature solution or by, who knows what. So the idea with this practice is I'll invite you to use, every time you notice yourself beginning to go into a questioning, doubting, am I doing this right? Or hearing a sound and wondering, what is that sound? Or wondering about what's going to happen in your day. I invite you to use a little label, just don't know. Just say to yourself, don't know, and then see if you can kind of let it go. And what can happen after a while is each time we sort of say don't know, and then we go back to, say, the sensation of breathing or whatever anchor we're working with, or maybe it's just the open awareness. Every time we say don't know, it's like we begin to develop this, there can be this sort of a kind of flavor that emerges in experience, a kind of light, pleasurable sort of bogglement, a kind of suspended animation, a suspended in the not knowing. And I'll let you see for yourself what happens, but it's a place to explore freedom in a way, where we can be free without needing to know what's coming up or what was happening in the past, and we're just in a state of sort of pure being. So we'll explore and see how that works for us. And as always, there'll be an opportunity to share a little bit at the end, and that's going to be our meditation. Good to see everybody. All these people suddenly came in. So you're...
We were in the wrong place.
Oh, you were in the wrong place. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah.
I wonder what
Yeah, I was like, there must be a meditation going on in there. Okay, cool. Well, great to see everybody. So just so everyone knows, we're also connected to friends virtually. This is a live stream, so people from around the world can sit on us. So we actually have a much larger community than just this. But I love the idea of connecting the local and the virtual in the same moment. It's that same sense of thin slicing time. So I'll guide a little 30-minute practice, and as always, you can follow along with your own meditation if that's kind of your bag, and that's totally fine. What I lead is just sort of an invitation, and at the end, I'll ring a bell, and then we'll have an opportunity to share, maybe ask questions, and I'll say a little bit about that when we get there. Sound good, Michelle? Okay, well, let's do it. Into the don't know.
If we ask questions, you're just going to say,
I don't know. No. It would be the only honest answer. Actually, let's explore that a little bit afterwards, because it's true. What do we really know is a very interesting question. Okay. All right, so welcome to your meditation. So the invitation is to get yourself comfortable. You're kind of getting in a seated position where you feel like you've really landed on the chair or the couch or the cushion. The eyes can be closed or they can be open at half-mast. Some people find it easier to have them open, kind of easier to stay in the present a little bit. But it really is sort of user's choice. We can start with a few deep breaths, kind of signaling to the body the meditation is about to begin. So as you breathe in, that's the upward motion, stretching up the spine a little bit, finding some alertness. And then the exhale is the downward motion, the softening and the relaxing. And really, we can really be deliberate about this at the beginning. Nice long exhale especially. As you breathe out, deliberately softening the worry lines in the forehead, and softening the eyes and the jaw. Then with the next exhale, you can bring your attention, kind of pass it through the neck and shoulders, softening as you go, loosening. Even all the way down to the hands. Can they be soft in your lap or on your knees? And the belly soft as well. So the foundation of this practice is really about awareness. It's about, can we stay in awareness? Can we stay present and aware without needing to go into the usual places that we go, where we, in a sense, leave our body and we go into the future, into the past, kind of following our mind's curiosity, which is a great gift, but one that we're not going to unwrap this half hour, because the gift of the present, of course, is another gift that we may not connect to enough. So the first opportunity here is to just sit in this very open, general way right here at the start, which really sitting in an equanimous state. This is quality of equanimity, which is a quality of really allowing. So, and we can find it in relationship to sound, to other sensations. Like, is there any kind of bracing or resistance happening? So even now in your body, notice if you're bracing against my voice or against the sounds and the ambient sounds in the space you're in. And can you instead let the whole belly be soft, and it's like you're letting all these sounds just pass through you. And similarly, there's no bearing down in your posture with anything going on internally, kind of fighting against thoughts or resisting uncomfortable sensations or feelings. The invitation is to welcome everything that's happening. And when we have this welcoming stance, what does that feel like? Some people describe a kind of lightness or a kind of almost a dignity in the posture. This commitment to not get uptight, to allow everything to be here. So, and it's this really beautiful thing. You're really inviting the whole of you to be present here. The whole of your life, the whole of the world around you. So this basic stance, just staying aware and open, present. I call this open awareness. Open focus has different names. And it's a place some meditators like to stay. So if that feels comfortable for you, you're welcome to explore that. For others, it makes a little bit more sense to work with an anchor. Feels a little bit too easy to get distracted from this open place. And so we choose something to lightly pay attention to. It's like some traditions they call that a seed, something to samadhi with a seed, something to anchor our attention. And really there are lots of possibilities here, but some of the common ones are the sensation of breathing, the softness coming in through the nose and into the belly. It could be any part of that sensation, or it could be just one little section at the belly or the throat or the nose. It could be the sensation of the air on your skin, or the warmth in your hands. It might be the feeling of your seat making contact with the ground, where your feet on the ground. Or maybe a point in the belly or the heart. Or finally, it might not even be a physical sensation. It might be sounds, some ambient sound in the room, like the fan or a heater. It might be the back of the eyelids, a visual thing, or your eyes are open, you're looking at something in front of you. So I just offer up a few of these possibilities because it's sort of like finding a set of clothes that fits. Which of these sensations kind of innately is a little bit appealing to you and kind of fits with what you want to be with right now. And then the idea is just choose one and kind of commit to it and see if you can stay with it in this good-natured way. So explore this for a little while. Good. So the one label that kind of the invitation to use is this label, don't know. At any time you can just sort of lightly say, don't know. Anytime you're wondering something, anytime your attention wanders off in some direction, and you kind of notice it, oh, don't know. What if you didn't need to know? And this can even include when you hear sounds. It can even include like when you're noticing your own breath, don't know. What if you didn't even know what any sensation was? What if you could stay in this place before you put a label on anything? Good. So we're riding this really interesting line. We're staying present, or we're trying to stay present, but staying present in a space of kind of not needing to know. Often not knowing means checking out, means just sort of drifting off, disappearing. But with this particular technique, we're just lightly staying present in this sort of relaxed awareness. So we're present, but we're not collapsing into labels, into concepts, into ideas and thinking. We're just in this sort of open expanse of knowing. What does it mean to know the breath without needing to give it a name? Or a story? Don't know. Don't know for every sound, every thought. Don't know, don't need to know. Yeah, just noticing if there's any subtle struggle or anything happening, and what if you just sort of let that go? Don't know, don't need to know, doesn't have to be perfect. Just coming back to this relaxed, open awareness. Aware but not in a story. Exploring this technique. Okay, good. So just for the last few minutes, we'll do a short loving kindness practice. It's nice to finish with one of these. So many different kinds. Kind of like a practice that's about nurturing positivity and connection. So for this one, I thought in honor of our local, we had this sort of local presence and we have this international presence, people sitting all around the world at the same exact moment. We do a little loving kindness practice on interconnection. So the idea is that you kind of imagine yourself wherever you're sitting and kind of how you're connected to this larger web. And that we can start with this web of people sitting right now. So the people in this room or the people far away connected to the people in this room and other people sitting. Just kind of imagining it like a grid or or like a spider's web radiating out from you. And as you breathe in, you can kind of say thank you, and it's like you're receiving friendliness from that whole grid. It's kind of coming, radiating through that grid into you. So you're saying your thanks. And then as you breathe out, it's like you're sending your affection back out through that grid. So if you're in this space right here, you're kind of sending your friendliness to everyone around you, but you're also breathing in your thanks for their presence, for their company. So we breathe in our thanks. I always imagine sort of breathing into my heart. And as it begins to get warm, then I have something to work with, and I breathe out my friendliness, my affection back out through the network. So you can say, even if you like, you can say thank you as you're breathing in. You can say, I love you, if you're up for that as you breathe out, or I kind of like you. And as we're doing this, we can slowly expand our network. So we breathe in our thanks. What are we thankful for? Who else in our life? Other faces may come into our mind's eye. People we're connected to, breathing in our thanks, breathing out our care to them. And we can expand further afield, children, animals. You can think about our ancestors, about our old mentors. I often think about old mentors, people who've helped you in the past, people you've worked with. It can be very random, the people that pop into your mind's eye, but you breathe in your thanks. It's like you're taking in sustenance from that network, directing it into your heart, and then you're breathing out your care. In Buddhism, they talk about the dedication of merit, that it's like you dedicate the merits of your practice to others, and you give it away. Sort of this act of generosity, breathing in and then giving it away. And we can even connect it to the natural world, which is very vivid where we are here in Costa Rica, the sounds and smells. But wherever you are, it's like you're breathing in support from the whole natural world, breathing in your gratitude for the trees and the oxygen and the animals, plants. And breathing out your care into that network. And make sure to include yourself for the last 30 seconds in this. Thanking yourself for your practice. Thanking yourself for your body, for all the parts. All the ages that are still inside you, from the little kid through the adult. Thanking all of it. Nice. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Don't know what's going on, but we just did a meditation, and we got another 20 minutes or so. So, for those who've never been here, either remotely or live, at the Consciousness Explorers Club, which is my sangha back in Toronto, we have this saying, the community is the teacher. And what we mean is that the sharing that happens, after a meditation, people might share a report or an insight or a question. That this is really so valuable. And we learn so much about practice, about what's happening in a meditation from listening to others and kind of connecting into that stream, that I could sit up here and talk till I'm blue in the face, but ultimately I really only represent one perspective. But we have a lot of perspectives in the room, a lot of teachers. So that's the invitation. If there's anything, you got any report, I'm curious how that was. I'm not sure this community here I've ever done the don't know meditation with. It's just a really interesting practice. So I'd love to hear people's reports about what that was like, what was hard about it, what was easy, or any question. With keeping in mind that I don't know. My authority is very, very, very slight. So it's interesting, the question of what is our authority. It's really only my personal experience, and because I'm a journalist and a teacher and I like to collect reports, sometimes I've collected over time an understanding of the kinds of things that can happen in people's nervous systems. So sometimes I'm responding from that place, but really it's only useful if it's useful to you. So I really have no authority whatsoever. Only you do. So, yeah, Deshaun.
With the don't know practice, I found it interesting that the labeling happens so fast.
Mm.
Like the don't know is way too late. Like just watching that and trying to surrender the already know,
Yeah.
the not know.
Yeah, that's well said. So I'll just try to repeat it just so that people can hear. You were just saying it's like you put the label in, but it already comes a little bit late. Like there's already a knowing, and you're already a little bit in the story, and then you realize it, and then you put the label in. And there's a kind of surrendering that needs to happen about just that. How great would it be to be able to really get there the moment the story starts, to say the don't know, to let it go. But the reality is we're going to be kind of lost in the story before we realize that we're in that, and then we can put the label down and, yeah, welcome to the mind. And did you find you were able to get kind of okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. It
Yeah.
was a noticing and a relaxing, even in not knowing if I could not know.
Exactly. Nice. So you were able to even relax into a not knowing if you could do the not knowing. Okay. Yeah, Monica.
Similar to Deshaun, the mind was very quick to label, but I found that the I don't know, when there was a moment where my anchor was the sound of the fountain,
Yeah.
and then the continual I don't know made everything that I didn't know the anchor. Does that make sense?
Huh.
So, but similar to Deshaun, it was my mind would take it over. I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? That made you.
Yeah.
That became the anchor. And then, but when I could let go, there was this. It was almost like.
Yes.
Everything
Yes.
would.
Exactly. So that is kind of you could say that's a kind of something we're pointing to a little bit in that practice. This sense of I don't know how to explain it, but there's exactly what you're saying, that there can be this experience of, it's like the not knowing becomes a thing. It has a particular energy. And so they work with that in Zen with koans, where you repeat a koan again and again, a little riddle that there's no answer to, really. There's no cognitive answer to. There's no intellectual answer. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Or what was your original face before you were born? And it's like this thing that it's meant to confound the mind. And you repeat it and you repeat it, and you're just working with that koan when you're practicing. And the thing is that what it cultivates is this energy of kind of bogglement, of not knowing, that has a different flavor for everyone, but it can become a kind of its own presence. It becomes the anchor in which the practice. And then, of course, the mind notices that and goes, "Oh, wow, this is really amazing! This amazing new anchors emerge. It's the not knowing." And then you're like, "No, but I'm knowing of the not knowing." And you're like, "Don't know." And then you get into the whole ridiculous shit show of having a mind, and it's hilarious. But, yeah. So, anyone else have that experience of that little bit of the energy of the not knowing building? There's something in that, a feeling in that, not to create a thing we're trying to get, but that can happen as an effective practice.
The hilarity.
You had the hilarity?
Which was nice. It was like feeling a relief of using the don't know. Even when love arose, like I just felt, oh, and I'm connected, don't know.
Yeah.
Then I'm doing something
Yeah.
with don't know. So
Yeah.
I'm noticing I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I have to do something, don't know. And then it was just, I just felt like laughing.
Yeah.
It was nice. Once it released.
Once it released, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, nothing's happening. I don't know. Just
He's
not
like-
trying.
Nothing's happening. I don't know. I'm not even trying. Why do I try it? So we actually, in a way, we didn't. Monday we'll do this. We'll do a true do nothing practice. A true do nothing practice is also a totally legitimate practice. This isn't quite it, because we did have an instruction to sort of stay aware, and then to use the label don't know. So that's already a structure. True do nothing practice is wonderful, but also can be very challenging, and it's the practice of completely surrendering. And as soon as you notice yourself trying to control anything about the experience, you just let that go. And it's a wonderful practice. We'll definitely do it here, and we've done it here in the past. But it's one of those things that some people find very frustrating, because they find it just leads to lots of daydreams, and there's no instruction to stop daydreaming. It's only to stop deliberately doing that. So, but anyway, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, this practice points us towards that, and it may end up in that, leading us into exactly that place of just not knowing, not needing to know, not doing, not needing to do, not even knowing who we are or what we are anymore. And it's wonderfully liberating, or it can be. Yeah.
So, in all of the different types of meditation that we practice, and the diversity is so beautiful to have so many choices. The commonality for me is how fast today, what I noticed was, and maybe it's just my hormonal state right now, I'm a little bit tired, but I found myself moving from the movement of my mind to the don't know. Like I was softly laying down to take a nap. I guess it was the second time that I went into it, or the third time. And then I thought, wow, that was really kind of sweet, that soft movement, and it had a lot less. I've been working with judgment in my meditation practice, so it had a lot. Maybe that's the accumulative factor of letting go of. Oh, you're thinking again. There you go again. How fast is this going? And then just be okay. There's the one. Softening into it, and it was very sweet and enjoyable.
Thank you. I don't know if that got picked up. It was such a good report, but just the sweetness and enjoyableness of lying into the donut, which felt to you like almost laying down into a nap. It was like you're putting down the burden of knowing, and there was something sweet in that. Anyone know Terence McKenna? Yeah, my favorite psychonaut. So a very famous, famous in psychedelic circles, kind of a trickster, post-Timothy Leary, but wonderfully articulate, kind of psychedelic explorer. But he tells this great story about it's sort of this parable of imagining this little baby girl in her crib, and she's, maybe 6 months or maybe 4 months old, maybe even younger, and she's lying back in her crib, and the window is opening, and it's open out onto a meadow, and she's looking up into the room, and there at that moment, this hummingbird comes in through the window and hovers above this little girl, and she's just looking, and it's just this iridescent psychedelic wonder, and the baby's, and at that moment, the father happens to come in the room and points to the hummingbird and says, "Hummingbird." And the way Terence McKenna talks about it is like, at that moment, it's like there's a tile it's like the world is just this open-ended space, and that this tile got placed over top of the hummingbird with the word hummingbird, and it's like, and that's the process in which language, which is so wonderful, can also be this process of confinement, where all of a sudden we're no longer seeing the thing. It's just now we have a word for it, and then the next word goes, and the next word. He says, in this way, it's like the inside of our world just gets tiled. It gets tiled, and this huge, open, infinite expanse of possibility and awareness gets collapsed into the things that we know, the stories that we know about things, and and this is in a way, this practice is a practice that's trying to help us kind of reconnect a little bit to maybe that original freedom. Not to say that it isn't wonderful to have words and language for things, but that it's even more wonderful, we could say, to be able to shift between those two modes, to be in this more open place and then be more in a place of having the answers. Yeah. How about anyone else here? Any newer folks? Any reports about what that was like? Was that hard? Was that easy?
Just had that little voice at the back trying to challenge the don't know, so there was always like some questions or what am I going to ask after the meditation, how am I feeling, so just that little voice that was constantly challenging me, and then I would use it as a mantra more like the don't know, and I never stopped saying it, so I wouldn't allow that little voice to like, come in and me expand on it. But a few times, of course, I did go.
Yeah.
And then I came back to my don't know mantra.
So you're just.
But something was challenging me. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show you, how hard this is or whatever.
Yeah. So a feeling of really that voice kind of coming in, kind of challenging, don't know, giving you stuff to work with, and then you'd say don't know. Was it always like you kind of said don't know as a blocking, or were you able to kind of say sometimes don't know as a letting go?
Both.
Okay, so both.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I was blocking.
Right.
And other times it became just like letting go.
Yeah. So that's very common that, so you're saying sometimes it's a blocking and sometimes it's more of a letting go. Often it starts as a blocking, but we start to get into the more delicate art of the practice, which is really the not struggling, not creating a conflict with ourselves by creating an inner fight, but just, oh yeah, we see it and we let it go. And that's where people say let it go ad nauseum in the meditation world. That's kind of what they're speaking to, this soft ability to let something, to just let go of a burden. So we let it come, we let it go, and we're not, it's the equanimity of not being connected to it. That's cool.
I have a confession. At some point in the meditation, I got a really good idea for this project I'm working on, and I thought that's a good idea. I'm gonna indulge myself for a moment
Yeah.
and then let it go.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
I think that's fair. Yeah. So you had an idea and it was a really good idea, and then you, instead of completely letting it go, you kind of indulged it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I spoke to this, I think, in the last week, but my teacher used to say about that, like, generally you don't want to be going into the ideas because you can do that the rest of the time of the day, but once in a while, if it's a really good one, you don't want to be in too much of a should situation in your meditation. You don't need another place with a school marm giving you the finger wag, It's like, it's much more important to have a permissive vibe in practice. At least that's my take on it. And actually, when people talk about the attitude of practice being so important, that's kind of what they're talking about. It's like, let's just at least have this be a place where we can, be inside a good attitude. And then, so we don't have to be so severe with ourselves. Not that there isn't a strictness that can be really useful sometimes.
And plus, we get some good ideas.
And I mean, that's not surprising. Good ideas do come because, of course, when we unfix and let go, we're not on our same track, then there's space for new perspectives and ideas to emerge. I mean, that's the classic. So anybody out there, you guys, from wherever you are, anyone want to type in a question in the chat there? I can see when things pop up, I'm close enough now that I might be able to see if someone has a question. We'll do we just got another 5 minutes or so. I'll just make that invitation to folks. I don't know if they're typing or not. How hard is it to do the don't know when there's a strange animal walking behind you in the forest? I'm like, what the fuck is that? Excuse me, don't know. Is it like, some giant pizote, a bear? Did anyone look and see what it was?
No, I heard it.
Yeah.
I heard it. I thought it was a person, but
Might have been a person. Yeah, don't know. Was it you teaching one time when the pizote ran right across the, yeah,
Oh, came in the studio?
yeah.
It seems like always in Shavasana or in a really quiet moment in class, that's when like the whole place starts to become really an invitation for the animals.
Yeah,
They really like when we're quiet, but they wanted to hear us.
yeah, isn't that interesting? All right, guys, well, good to meditate with you. I think we'll sign off for the day. Thank you. I'll be back Friday. If you're here Friday, we'll do this Friday. And if you haven't done Qigong before, it's a great class on Wednesday morning.
I think it might be the last one,
Yeah,
7 a.m.
that's so good. Breathwork class is
Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Sundays at 12.
Monday nights, Thursday nights, Sundays at 12. So good. Stacy, when's your yoga class? Now. Please stay. Stacy masterfully integrates meditation instruction and awareness stuff into her postures in a way I've actually never encountered with anybody. So that's the invitation. Awesome. I'll see you guys around.